Hey traders, it's my evening video. Please like the video there on YouTube if you get a chance. And leave comments below, good, bad, ugly, whatever. I appreciate it. Okay. So bottom line is we had the VX futures roll today. And as you can see, for the most part, the VX futures held the VWAP. Typically, the first few days after the roll, you tend to get a bid in the VX futures. So keep that in mind going forward into the next couple days here. We just got the roll today. So there should be a bid trying to maintain the VWAP here on the VX futures. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about, that's the ZNs. That's your 10-year bonds. Okay, we came back down in the after hours here, and we bounced off of critical support. They're turning it into new support. If you go out here, look at your time frame, this has not acted as support. They've broken right through it each time. This is actually the first bounce off of that we have actually seen. See, look at these. None of these have been any type of anything of any significance. So be mindful of that. Us bouncing right off of that might be important. So keep that very much in mind here. But I do think we do have the 20-year auction tomorrow. By tomorrow morning, we should be back down into that. Not necessarily breaking it, but I'm kind of thinking we're going to be back into that by tomorrow morning. Some charts I'm looking at here with the expected measured moves here. If I'm right, we barely scratched the surface for a corrective wave. I got the 30 SMA on here. Okay, and so we haven't even hit the 23.6 on the yeses. That's the absolute bare minimum for a corrective wave, in my opinion. So be mindful of that going forward in tomorrow's session. This is the bare minimum based off of this breakout wave right here, the absolute bare minimum. And ideally, all the way down off of this wave down here, down in this area right here would be a more, and that's going to line up with these prior highs. This would be a more substantial corrective wave. So 44.24 all the way down to 44.25, still a valid continuation pattern. So this would have been wave A doing a wave B for a wave C for a continuation higher. So that is the main pattern. We are rejecting below 45.50. That was key for the pattern to be valid. So a move back above 45.50 before we complete this, that would completely change our count. So be mindful of that. Okay. NQs, same thing. We came down harder today on the NQs. We've already, the bare minimum, we've already tagged that here on NQs here in the after hours session. We are below our 30-day moving average. We're getting a little hook on our 30-minute flattening out here. That's giving us our first signal that relative weakness here. The momentum on the 30 SMA is it's went to flat, but it's not necessarily negative yet. So be mindful of that. We did have relative weakness because of the bonds today and the Nasdaq. So be mindful of that. Ideally, we come back down to here. That would actually almost line up with these prior highs as well. Okay, so ideally we come back down there. Now, don't get me wrong, it could get a lot worse than that. But these are minimum targets that I'd be looking forward for tomorrow. 15,500 would be the target area that you would be ideally looking for, in my opinion. So we'll keep an eye on that. Now to complete that entire pattern, of course, you'd have to come down to 15,200. So be mindful of that as well. But anything can happen tomorrow, so just keep that on watch. I'm going to go through some of my monsters of tech here. You got Apple, relative strength into the close. We're still above our moving average, above our trend line. So if we go sideways in the overnight session around 9 o'clock in the morning, we will be on that trend line near this price point. So unless we're putting new highs in, we will be going into that trend line around 9 o'clock. So keep an eye on that for a possible break of that trend line. We got two different scenarios here for a correction on Apple. Microsoft, it did barely backtest the absolute bare minimum. Same deal. It's going to be at all-time highs on this trend line going into the open for either a break to new all-time highs or a breakdown of trend. definitely keep that one on watch. NVIDIA was showing relative weakness today. It is the weakest of the monsters attack. The 30 SMA actually has gone flat, along with the Nasdaq. So be mindful of that. Uh, so that one is showing we are in the bare minimum pullback, the absolute bare minimum. But we are coming off a significant resistance. So I don't believe in the bare minimum pullbacks because we are coming off of major significant resistance on too many stocks. Major resistance. So I would really feel much better for the much bigger correction down like to 460 here on the Nasdaq. First, you got to get through 480. So, but yeah, 460 would be ideal if we got down on Nvidia here. Okay. Other ones I'm looking at, Amazon's pretty weak. Amazon's starting to roll over here, but it hasn't completely went flat yet. But we are weaker on the back test area. Okay, and the Nasdaq is in an inverted head and shoulders, so the pattern is not necessarily as bad as bad of resistance as some of the other chart patterns. But ideally, we would like to see it down to the 136. So we'll see what happens there on that one. Okay. AMD really weak here. The moving average has not rolled over yet. We have broken the moving average. We have satisfied the absolute bare minimum to the downside correction. Ideally, though, we're looking down here into the 110 area. Okay, which other ones have I forgotten about? Tesla. Very strong pattern, but this thing went parabolic up. So around 11 o'clock tonight, 12 o'clock tonight, we will be likely crossing that trend line, probably coming down into this area for tomorrow's open. So I'm looking for a move back into this 236 area tomorrow's open there, setting up for a potential corrective wave all the way down. So I'd be watching this probably as one of my top short ideas tomorrow if the markets do play out like I think they're going to play out here. I'm thinking the bonds will continue. We'll come back down to that support in the overnight session, and we might believe below that tomorrow morning. Google showing relative strength here. This one actually is setting up for a potential breakout. So be mindful of Google potential breakout scenario here going into the close today. So this is the strongest chart pattern in my opinion. We're above the downward channel. We closed right at session highs. Okay, so this one here is the one. If you were bullish the market, if the market's coming in fairly good tomorrow morning, this is the one of the first ones you would have to have an alert on and be mindful. Keep a really close eye on that one for a long tomorrow morning. Okay, which one am I forgetting? I did Apple, Microsoft. Let me pause it for a second. Netflix is into resistance. We closed into resistance. I do want to point out on that. So definitely it could be some responsive profit taking tomorrow. So be mindful of that. But if we were to be gapping up on Netflix tomorrow, we do have a gap above us. It might be trying to run up into that gap area tomorrow morning on some strength in the markets. Boeing has been very strong here, but we are into a resistance area, potentially breaking the 30 SMA early on tomorrow's session. Ideally, though, you would be wanting to get back in around the 197. So just be mindful of that, and you really don't have any shorter term back tests. So this is a much more dangerous chart in my opinion for the longs because you haven't even actually had any type of back test other than we had a back test early on yesterday's session, which we've already given up more than you should on that. So I would not trust that back test on Boeing. Last one I'm doing here is IWM. Massive move this week. This one here is the shortest time frame, biggest mover in the markets. So this one here is really the most dangerous for a corrective wave in the markets. The bonds come down in the morning. This one here has the potential for the bigger correction. I'm just pissed that I didn't take the short today early on this morning out of the gate. Around 9:30 here, I could have got a really nice short here on IWM. But bottom line is we're looking for we don't have any type of back test to speak of. I mean, you might be able to call that right there as a back test right there. If that's the case, then we're already breaking down below the bottom of the 61.8 as we speak here. So be mindful of that. We're already potentially breaking down away from that off this back. So ideally, we're looking for the 176, 174. That's our first targets. That puts us in these prior highs right here. And ideally, somewhere in this range down here. Any of these areas right through here are valid backtest areas for an A, B, or an A, B, C formation for a breakout pattern. So be mindful of that. Okay, that's all I got to say. Like I said, I really appreciate the comments you give it. And welcome everybody. I got a bunch of new people in my Discord room. I will have a link below the video if anybody's interested to join the Discord room. And there will be a live feed from now on out in my Discord room. We're going to try it out, see how many people will show up, and be a live feed running all day long. Now, I won't be talking in there all the time, but I'll be talking some in there. And, we'll just keep it clean and, just stick with on topic with the stocks and try not to, offend anybody. Thanks a lot. Let me find